So, if I had to ask you what is the most unstable region in Europe, you would probably say the Balkan. As someone from the Balkan, I think it's interesting to see what happened in the past that we got to the horrific chaos that is the Balkan nowadays. Like, I think I will conclude how the Balkan is in this modern day at the end of the video. So obviously strap in for this and obviously subscribe. And yeah, I guess we can now already go back in time to 1877. The Ottoman Empire was pretty much about to collapse and was pretty broke and in debt. So obviously there were again some revolts in the Balkans from the Slavs to get independence. But yeah, I don't know what to tell you. They were struck down, especially the Bulgarians were treated with brutality. This left Britain so enraged they stopped supporting the Ottoman Empire. For context, Britain was really the only thing keeping this empire alive. Russia would have probably done like 50 wars against them if it wasn't for the British. But now, because the British weren't there, the Russians could declare war on the Ottomans, which led to the First Russo-Turkish War. And yeah, I don't know what to tell you. The Russians almost got to Constantinople. But then the British interfered, threatening that they should end the war because they do not want Constantinople falling to Russian hands. The results of that were the Treaty of San Stefano. You had Russia expanding a slight bit, Serbia expanding and getting independent, Romania getting independent, Austria getting Bosnia because they supported Russia in the war, though they do not get direct annexation, just control. And you have this massive Bulgaria. The great powers feared that Russia would have a lot of influence in this Bulgarian state. And because Russian influence in the Balkan, especially that close to Constantinople, is nobody's cup of tea, they decided to redraw the map a bit. I do understand most of these, though, giving back the Bulgarian coast because, well, the Ottomans should have a land connection to their Balkan holdings. I do also think that not giving the Bulgarians Macedonia makes sense, especially due to Greek and Serbian claims on the state, on the region, and then they took also some more land, which is a bit weird but fine. And yeah, the rest was until later, first not reunified with Eastern Romania. I do not show this on the map, sorry. And it was actually an Ottoman subject still, but then it was not an Ottoman subject anymore. Yeah. To the early 20th century. In 1908, Austria-Hungary officially annexed Bosnia. And in 1911, the Italians have completely destroyed the Ottomans in the Italo-Turkish War, where they got Libya, leading to 1912, where the Balkan powers of Serbia, Montenegro, Greece, and Bulgaria realized, oh wait, these guys cannot do stuff. So they declared war on the Ottomans, cue the First Balkan War. The Balkans completely destroyed the Ottoman Empire, almost throwing them completely out of the Balkan. The great power, seeing that, well, they cannot keep the Ottomans a Balkan power, decided to do something against that. So obviously they had the bright idea of drawing a line in phrase, giving Greece the Aegean Islands, and forcing Albanian independence to leave the rest up to the Balkan powers. Looking at this map, it's kinda clear that there were some problems. Pretty much nobody was happy. Serbia wanted northern Albania for themselves and Bosnia, though we'll come to that later again. Bulgaria wanted Macedonia and Constantinople, just like Greece, who also wanted southern Albania, and the Italians wanted a protectorate over Albania. Looking at this map, it's obvious that another war is coming. And it isn't. It's coming not even a year later. It started with Bulgaria marching into Macedonia because the Macedonians were pretty similar to Bulgarians, so they think it's their deserved territory. And then the Greeks came to defend the Serbians, and in this bad situation, it came out to this. Yeah, I guess the Romanians and Ottomans really wanted that win. Surprise, the Bulgarians lost. Yeah, they had to give up some coast to the Greeks, some land and Thrace to the Ottomans, south the Bruges to the Romanians, and I don't think any territory to Serbia. Yeah, they've been severely humbled in this war. So it's the year 1914. Tensions have been rising in the Balkan, especially with Austria-Hungary and Serbia, because Serbia really wanted to integrate the southern Slavs in its nation. So the Austrian-Hungarian system was really not popular anywhere in the empire. I think this deserves a video in itself. So the Archduke Franz Ferdinand tried to make the situation a bit more peaceful and better, so he went to Sarajevo, and there, a Serbian nationalist shot him. Yeah, the Austria-Hungary gave Serbia an ultimatum, and they mostly agreed, except some points like letting their police force into Serbia to investigate. Yeah, and then they declared war on Serbia, which in a chain reaction caused the First World War. I think this should also be a separate video, so I will just concentrate on the Balkan front. Going through the years, the World War One starts in 1914, where pretty much nothing happened. Austria-Hungary really struggled breaking through the Serbian lines, which showed just how weak they were, and a huge Russian offensive pretty much crippled the Russo-Austrian front till the end of the war, not being helped by the Ottomans joining the war. In 1915 everything changed though. Bulgaria joined the Central Powers, completely destroying the Serbian backlines, causing the most Serbian soldiers to flee to Albania, though they would eventually be picked up. So, moving on to 1916, Romania joins the war, and even though they do get destroyed pretty quickly, they still made something. Other than that, Austria-Hungary has kinda recovered from the Russian attack, mainly because there wasn't huge Russian push in the north. But yeah, that doesn't really matter for us. Though Serbian resistance does start to unravel. 1917 was kinda a mixed pack. Even though Russia did collapse and become communist, also in that year the USA joined the Allies, and more importantly, Greece joined the war, causing another front. And in 1918, this caused the collapse of Bulgaria with the uprising of the Serbians, and then yeah, everybody else collapsed. The time during 1918 and 1920 is one where I'd say Europe was pretty much on fire. Like, this is probably something that I will talk about and what happened after the First World War, but looking at it, these were the borders after all that. The only really noticeable thing from today is in the Balkan that Yugoslavia exists, and I guess the Greeks expanded into the Bulgarian coast in comparison to 1914. Yeah, I mean, not really much was done to Bulgaria, which you probably noticed because, well, nobody actually cared. Yeah, then came 1923, I think, something at that time, where The Hungarians had a communist revolution which led to Romania invading Hungary to prevent that. Guess what? Now it's time to talk about the late 20s and early 30s, or the Great Depression. Yeah, the Great Depression hit the Balkans pretty badly because, well, I think that it's obvious even to this day that the Balkans are the poorest region amongst all of Europe. And yeah, that would be made even worse as Albanian exports fell to like 3/5, which is pretty bad. And overall, in this time, Hungary started getting closer to the Third Reich. Time to talk about World War II. Pretty much nothing happened in 1939 in the Balkans, so we skip over to 1940. Yeah, the most interesting thing that happened is kind of that they really just forced an alliance between Romania, Hungary, Bulgaria, and the Germans. And also the Italian invasion of Greece, which was an absolute failure. Like, I still don't know how this happened. Whatever. After that, the Germans helped and forced the Greeks into an alliance. So, yeah. We will pretty much mostly ignore Operation Barbarossa and focus on what happened in the Balkan. Yeah, the invasion of Yugoslavia was pretty much the only thing happening. And I think even they knew that they were cooked because, well, just look at this. 1942 is just them trying to control these new territories that they took from Yugoslavia, with some new states like a Croatian and Serbian state. Yeah. In 1943, just like in the rest of the world, the tide started turning against the Germans in the Balkans. They were slowly losing their control, and Tito's movements in Yugoslavia destabilized the new states. In 1944, German control over the Balkan was completely gone, either through uprisings, invasions, or side switching. The war ended in 1945, leading to our next event, the Cold War. During the Cold War, in the Balkan was pretty much uneventful and was just a staring contest between the west of, in this map, Greece, where the monarchy won over the communists in a civil war and the country turned into a republic. Turkey and Italy, who will be represented as the NATO ball, and the East with pretty much everything else except Yugoslavia and Albania for some reason being represented as the Warsaw Pact ball. Most of the Cold War was pretty much just a staring contest between these two, though there were some small interruptions that were also on the Balkan that I will talk about right now, including the 1956 Hungarian Revolution, where they wanted more autonomy and to leave the Warsaw Pact, which led to the communists crushing the revolutionaries with violence. And also during the Cuba crisis, where America stationed in Italy and Turkey some of their nukes directly at the Soviet Union. Which, yeah, I mean, it was eventually dissolved peacefully and not with, I don't know, the world looking like Mars. Other than that, I think we can pretty much skip to the communist world falling apart. Now we got here the fall of the Warsaw Pact, where in 1989 pretty much everybody in the Warsaw Pact just left communism in the past, and 2 years later the Soviet Union like blew up. Now it's finally time for the last big event of this video, the fall of Yugoslavia. In the last decade, Yugoslavia has really been in decline, economically and morally. Because, well, Tito died. He was pretty much the only thing keeping this nation stable. Because, well, after that, it kind of just went downhill. Because Yugoslavia lost its importance. It was no messenger boy. Because the other side was just not there anymore. And yeah, so the economy declined. While they still had a good army, what will that do? The Slovenians then declared independence, and after that, it just went even faster down. And after a few years, it looked like this. Yeah, it was really not a great time, but especially the Croatians and Bosnians were devastated. The Yugoslav forces were, especially in Bosnia, pretty brutal and horrible. In Bosnia, there was already a civil war, and they also committed a genocide in Bosnia. So, yeah, some really messed up stuff, which really did not give them the best reputation. And, yeah, eventually it got pretty bad, so that in 2008, the Serbians were bombed by NATO to ensure Kosovan independence, which leaves us to the absolute chaos of nowadays. So the Balkan is pretty much on fire, just like always. And I will go through some of the biggest reasons. If you didn't look at the map long enough, we will come back to Bulgaria, who still wants North Macedonia. And then you also got the millions who live in this one part of Transylvania, and Hungary really wants that part, and overall everything all with Transylvania. Then you also got the post-Yugoslav world, where Slovenia is pretty much just chilling, and I don't know why she's here or he. I don't know. Do countries have pronouns? I can think about that later. And then we got Bosnia and Kosovo, who are on fire. I don't know how much I said on fire in these last few sentences, but it's absolute chaos. And well, it's not really getting better because we got the Greeks and the Turks. Do I need to say anything more? So I forgot to give some context to some of those. In Bosnia, there are these colored areas where Croats and Serbs live with, what you can pretty much see because they have the color of their home nation, so to say. And in Kosovo, Serbia claims it, but it's except of a little bit in the north, mostly Albanian. Other than that, I completely forgot Vojvodina. Sorry, guys. Yeah, that's how the Balkan is an absolute piece of chaos. And wait, you didn't like and subscribe? Do it now!